All right, let's dive in. Today, we're looking at a quiet revolution that's totally transforming lives across Africa. And it's not about huge, massive power plants. Nope, it's something much smaller, a lot smarter, and way more agile. We are talking about the rise of the mini-grid and how it's bringing reliable power to millions of people for the very first time.
But to really get why this solution is such a big deal, we first have to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the problem. We're talking about an energy gap that affects the daily lives of hundreds and hundreds of millions of people.
Let's just start with a number that frames this entire story. 680 million. By 2030, that's how many people in sub-Saharan Africa are estimated to still be without access to electricity. It's a staggering challenge for sure, but it's also an incredible opportunity for some real innovation.
And we need to be really clear here. This isn't just about being able to flip a switch. Access to reliable power, well, it's the foundation for pretty much everything else. It means kids can do their homework after the sun goes down. Small businesses can run their machinery. And whole communities can finally plug into the digital world. It's really about unlocking human potential.
So, how in the world do you tackle a challenge of this magnitude? Just trying to extend those old, often unreliable national grids? That's not always the answer. The solution needs a totally different way of thinking. And this is where the mini-grid comes into the picture. So what exactly is a mini-grid? Well, the easiest way to think about it is like a self-sufficient energy island. It's the small, localized power grid that serves a very specific community. And it operates completely independently from the bigger national grid. In places where that national grid is unreliable or, doesn't even exist, this is a total game changer. And the technology behind them is actually surprisingly simple. Most modern mini-grids are powered by the sun, using solar panels to generate electricity. That power can be used right away or stored in batteries to be used at night. Some of them also have a small backup generator, just in case. The result? A system that's clean, local, and incredibly reliable. And look, this isn't just some niche concept. It's scaling up at an incredible pace. Just look at this growth. Back in 2016, there were fewer than 2,000 mini-grid connections across the entire continent. Fast forward to 2024, and that number has just exploded to over 127,000. That's power for nearly 1 million people. The momentum here is absolutely undeniable. But of course, that kind of explosive growth is never without its challenges. While the mini-grid model is really powerful, the developers on the ground face some pretty significant hurdles that can slow progress down to a crawl. These challenges really fall into 3 main buckets. First, the surprisingly high costs of actually building these things. Second, the incredibly slow flow of cash from promised funding. And third, well, the suffocating red tape of bureaucracy. Let's break each of those down. Okay, let's start with the cost. You might think that building a solar project costs roughly the same no matter where you are in the world, right? Well, that's just not the case. In sub-Saharan Africa, the cost to build a mini-grid is more than double the global average. That huge difference comes from really complex logistics, challenging supply chains, and some seriously steep import taxes. Then you have the cash flow problem. Even when money is available, it often gets stuck somewhere in the pipeline. Get this, over $9 billion have been committed by development partners to fund these projects. But a jaw-droppingly low 14% of that money has actually been dispersed. This creates this massive bottleneck, stalling projects before they can even get started.
And finally, there's the bureaucracy. Just navigating the regulatory maze can be a painfully slow process. A generation license, that can take up to 40 weeks to get approved. Getting the electricity price approved, that can take another 39 weeks. These delays just stack up, and they can sometimes add years to a project's timeline, absolutely killing its momentum.
But despite these huge hurdles, the impact of the mini-grids that do get built is just undeniable. So let's shift gears and talk about why overcoming these challenges is so critical. What does this progress actually look like for people on the ground? It all starts with one word: reliability. Mini-grids in this report had an average uptime of 88%. Now compare that to the national grids in the region, which can have multiple power outages every single day. For the people living there, that's the difference between a life of certainty and a life of constant disruption. The economic impact is also immediate and it's direct. The 27 mini-grid developers that were surveyed for this report created over 6,200 jobs in just 4 years. And we're not just talking about temporary construction work here. These are often permanent, local jobs that become a core part of the community's economy. And this is what that economic growth really looks like.
When reliable power shows up in a community, you're not just lighting up homes. You're creating an entire ecosystem of opportunity. Welders can power their tools, farmers can mill their grain, and local shops can stay open long after the sun goes down.
Here's a fact that really puts this all into perspective. A single grain mill can use as much electricity as 100 typical homes. Powering businesses like these is what the industry calls productive use, and it's the absolute key to making many grids work. See, when local businesses are using power, it creates a steady, reliable demand for electricity, which makes the whole model financially sustainable.
So what we have here is a model that works, an impact that's undeniable, and growth that's already happening. The question now is, what's next? What does the road to 2030 actually look like?
The ambition for the next few years is huge. Right now, there's a pipeline of over 6,000 new mini-grid sites planned across the continent. If these get built, they could connect nearly 14 million more people to reliable power. But turning that plan into a reality, well, that's going to require a coordinated investment of around $2.2 billion.
And so that leaves us with one final crucial question. The technology is there. The model is proven to work. The human need is crystal clear. The only real uncertainty is whether governments, investors, and developers can finally get on the same page to unlock the money and slash the red tape that's needed to power a continent. The potential is right there, just waiting to be unleashed.